Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are putting on our gardening gloves and totally transforming how we approach our backyard vegetable patches. Look, if you've ever spent a beautiful Saturday morning carefully tending to your prized tomatoes, only to find them absolutely decimated by bugs on Sunday, yeah, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're going to break down a smart, safe, and highly effective approach to keeping those plants healthy. We're talking about using a structured method that the absolute pros use, but we're tailoring it specifically for our own backyards.
You know, the sheer joy and the literal sweat equity we put into cultivating a home garden is so incredibly rewarding. We plan, we plant, we water, and then we wait. But as any experienced gardener knows, right along with that lush green growth comes the inevitable frustration of insect pests deciding your hard-earned crops are an all-you-can-eat buffet. It can honestly feel like a constant battle, right? And in those moments, it's so tempting to just grab the strongest chemical spray on the shelf and nuke the whole problem. But hold on a second, because there's a much smarter way to handle this.
And that smarter way is called Integrated Pest Management, or IPM for short. Now, the absolutely crucial thing to understand here is that IPM isn't some magic potion or a single product you buy. It's actually a decision-making process. It's all about anticipating and preventing pest activity by combining a few different tactics to get a long-term solution. And the best part? This method strongly prioritizes environmental compatibility and safety. Basically, we want to protect our families, our pets, and our local ecosystem, rather than just relying on a quick, synthetic fix that might honestly cause way more harm than good down the road.
Now, when it comes to pests, we home gardeners actually have a massive silver lining compared to big commercial agricultural producers. On a commercial farm, quality standards are incredibly rigid, right? Like a tiny amount of insect damage can mean an entire field of sweet corn just gets completely rejected by the food industry. But in our backyards, come on, we can just plant a little extra to tolerate some inevitable loss. If we find a caterpillar chilling at the tip of an ear of sweet corn, we can literally just chop off the damaged part and happily eat the rest. The whole shebang doesn't have to be perfect, and that gives us tremendous flexibility in how we manage our pests.
So, think of this as your weekend project roadmap. We're going to cover gardening smarter and then walk through the 5 steps: inspection, identification, action thresholds, safe control measures, and finally, evaluation.
Section 1. Gardening smarter, not harder. Okay, before we even get our hands dirty, we have to remember one golden rule. Healthy plants are naturally more resilient to pests. Working with nature, rather than against it, is the foundation of these 5 basic steps. We inspect, we identify, we establish our limits, we take targeted action, and then we evaluate. Following this exact sequence completely takes the guesswork out of garden defense. By sticking to this game plan, we can get incredible pest control without causing any unnecessary harm to the environment.
Moving on to step 1, inspection and monitoring. This is the part where you get out into your backyard, grab your morning coffee, and really look at what's happening out there among the foliage and stems. Regular scouting throughout the season, totally non-negotiable. You want to figure out where the pests are and how bad the problem is, while fixing it is still actually practical. For example, tiny little pests like whiteflies are almost impossible to manage once their populations absolutely explode. By getting in super close, heck, maybe even breaking out a magnifying glass, you can spot the damage and figure out what's drawing them in long before it turns into a full-blown infestation.
Step 2. Pest identification. You really got to know your pests.
Now, I know it sounds super obvious, but you absolutely cannot protect your veggies if you don't know exactly what insect is treating them like a buffet. Once you spot a bug, you kind of have to play detective. What are its food preferences? Does it strictly munch on your tomato leaves, or is it going after the squash too? What about its behavioral patterns and its life cycle? Understanding the biology of a pest tells you exactly when and how it is most vulnerable. Like, if you know a specific bug lays its eggs in the soil right at the base of the plant, boom, you instantly know exactly where to focus your preventative efforts.
All right, step 3, action thresholds. So thresholds are actually this fascinating concept pulled from commercial farming. It's basically deciding the exact population level where you actually need to step in and do something. Just because you see one single bug doesn't mean it's time to panic. Big farms calculate these really rigid things called economic injury levels, which is just a fancy way of saying the point where pest damage costs more than the bug spray would. But in our backyards, our thresholds are delightfully flexible. They are based entirely on plant value, aesthetics, and honestly, your own personal tolerance. Like, can you live with a few little holes in your spinach leaves? If the answer is yes, then your threshold hasn't been met yet. You just let nature balance itself out, and you only jump into action when the damage actually threatens the plant's survival. Step 4. Safe control measures.
Once that personal threshold of yours is finally crossed, then we step in. But this progression of control is literally the core of the whole IPM philosophy. We do not jump straight to the heavy chemicals. We start with cultural controls. Think putting up insect screens or rotating your crops. If that doesn't cut it, we move to mechanical, literally picking the bugs off by hand or hoeing the weeds. If they're still being stubborn, we look to biological controls, using natural enemies. And only as an absolute last resort do we turn to chemical control. Even then, we prioritize soft insecticides early in the season so we don't accidentally wipe out the beneficial bugs. It's basically an escalation ladder, designed to disrupt your garden's natural ecosystem as little as humanly possible.
And a brilliant example of this is using lady beetles for aphid control. This is biological control at its absolute finest. Instead of going out and spraying your prized roses to kill off aphids, you simply invite or even purchase and introduce naturally occurring predators to do the heavy lifting for you. Another fantastic example is using Bt, which is a natural bacteria, to control caterpillars. It's incredibly targeted and effective, but keeps the rest of your garden's insect community totally safe.
Now, I do have to provide a quick reality check here. Just because chemicals are last on the list does not mean they aren't an important part of an IPM program. Actually, sometimes cultural and biological methods just aren't going to cut it. This is especially true when you're dealing with exotic invasive pests, stuff like the imported fire ant or the emerald ash borer. Because these pests aren't native to the area, they often have literally zero natural enemies in our local ecosystems. In those cases, a chemical intervention might be the only practical way to stop them from completely wrecking your garden.
So, if we do find ourselves having to use chemical controls, safety is absolutely paramount. You must wear chemical-resistant gloves. And this is vital because, get this, the most common way to get accidentally exposed to these chemicals is actually right through your hands. Always spray downwind, starting on the downwind side of the garden, so the breeze blows it away from you. Meticulously check the label for re-entry time so you know when it's actually safe to walk back through your plants. And always wash your body and your clothes immediately after you're done. We got to protect ourselves just as much as we protect the non-target bugs.
And finally, step 5, evaluating effectiveness.
Okay, we've applied our control measures, but we are not quite done yet. Evaluation means you don't just spray or handpick some bugs and then walk away assuming everything is fine. You have to conduct follow-up monitoring. Did the tactic you used actually reduce the pest problem to an acceptable level? You also need precise record keeping. Just jot down what pest you saw, what method you tried, and what happened. It's like keeping a tiny garden journal. This helps you catch overlooked problems and tells you for sure if you need to reapply that method or totally rethink your strategy for next year.
And you know, this right here is exactly why we do it all. Following these 5 steps, inspection, identification, establishing thresholds, using safe controls, and evaluating, leads directly to highly resilient plants, a bountiful harvest, and a thriving, totally safe ecosystem right in your own backyard. By adopting this IPM mindset, you become a much smarter, more observant gardener. You're working in harmony with nature, rather than constantly being at war with it.
So I want to leave you with a quick thought to kick off your weekend project. Based on what we've covered today, what is the very first natural or cultural control you are going to introduce into your garden this season? Maybe you're going to plant a trap crop, or perhaps order a little box of lady beetles. Whatever it is, start small, stick to those 5 steps, and watch your garden absolutely thrive safely. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and happy gardening.